hello. Hi, I'm Heather Glenn. I'm with Career Convos, and today I have Jen. Should I say Jennifer?
You can call me Jen. We've known each other long
Yes,
enough.
we've been friends since growing up back in the day in Texas. So it's really fun to have Jen here visiting with us about her career as an attorney. And it's going to be really fun to hear a little bit about your experience. So why don't you give us just a brief summary of your background
Sure.
and kind of where you are now and how you ended up there.
Okay, so thanks for having me. So I did my undergraduate work at Brigham Young University. I got my degree in international relations and international business, and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that. But so when I graduated from college, I thought, well, I was working as a loan officer, which I did not enjoy. Um, so I decided to go back to graduate school, and I did not want to have to take the GMAT because it had math on it, to be perfectly honest. So the LSAT for law school does not have math on it. So I took the LSAT and decided to go to law school, and went to law school at BYU, which is 3 years. And during the summers of law school, you do internships for free. And my first summer, I worked for a judge in North Dakota, of all places, and was his clerk. And we did tribal cases on Indian reservations, and then we just did basic criminal and civil cases. Then my second summer, I worked in New York City for the summer, which was interesting, but definitely not for me. And then when I graduated, I joined a law firm here in Salt Lake City, a smaller law firm, and was a litigation associate. So going to court, writing briefs. Um, After I'd been there a few years, I moved to a larger law firm here in Salt Lake City, doing the same thing as a litigator. And after I had been there a total of 9 years, I was a litigator at a law firm. And then about 12 years ago, I moved to in-house counsel at a large company, and I'm general counsel for two of their business units. One's here in Salt Lake City, and the other one's actually in France. So I do a lot of work globally. Um, so that's kind of how I got here. uh, yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. So, why don't you tell us first about some of the best parts of your job? What are some of the things that you enjoy the most about the work that you do now, or even some of the work you've done in the past? What are some of
sure,
the things that you've really enjoyed?
sure. So I think the thing I like most about being an attorney is I'm a problem solver. So whether you're practicing in a law firm or you're practicing like I am now for a company, people come to you when they have problems. Now, sometimes it's after they've already gotten themselves in kind of a fix. And
Mhm.
sometimes they come to you before, which is always better. And you
Mhm.
can help them kind of navigate different ways around, staying out of issues.
Right.
But I like that because it requires me to kind of think creatively, how to help them with whatever issue that they've got. So in life, it's a good skill to have, a problem solver. One of the things you're taught in law school, and really what law school really teaches you, is how to think differently. It teaches you how to spot issues, and just how to analyze them, and then different ways to solve them from all different angles. So it teaches you how to think about both sides of an argument, which are skills that I think are great life skills, because we all have different opinions. There's different ways to solve issues and resolve problems, and law school and being a lawyer teaches you how to look at both sides of an issue, teaches you how to recognize what those issues are, and then kind of helps you determine how to start trying to solve them. Not that it's going to tell you exactly how to resolve the issue, but at least it helps you down a path, and then you kind of have to pivot sometimes and make changes. So I think my favorite part is helping people solve problems. Um, and I find that in my personal life, people that know that I'm an attorney will come to me with issues. Sometimes that's great, sometimes it's not so great, because
Mhm.
you get all kinds of random questions. But so that's my favorite part of what I do. Plus, every day at work is different. And that was the same for being in a law firm as it is for my job now. I mean, I one day I can be dealing with the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, talking to them about a product that we're trying to get cleared because I work for a medical device company. And another day I'm dealing with, an employment issue with one of our employees. And then the next day I'm negotiating a contract with a hospital, for to sell a piece of equipment to them. So I'm dealing with something different all the time.
Wow.
And then add in the global aspect of it. I'm dealing with a business that's in France. And so I'm learning more about, how they do business, and just dealing with a whole different culture. And so it's different every day. And I love that, because I think I'd get really bored doing the same thing all the time.
Yes.
So.
And so do you have counterparts that you're working with, or is this really very independent? I mean, you work for a large company, so kind of tell me a little bit about how that is.
Yeah, so I'm the general counsel for 2 business units for this company. And yes, I mean, I have people, so for example, I'm not an expert in French law, obviously, and I'm not an expert in the laws in China or India. We have business and dealings around the world. And so I have people that I can call and ask those questions of. So I'm not required to be an expert in all those, different laws, even here in the United States, or even in every topic. So we have people internally that we can call. I have colleagues, that I can call in other parts of the business to bounce ideas off of them, which we do a lot of as lawyers. You do a lot of that in law firms as well. Um, and because the joke I always make is, you get 10 lawyers in a room, give them all the same issue, and you're going to get 10 different ways to solve it.
Mhm.
And that's not a bad thing.
That's not, yeah.
Getting, so that again, that goes back to what law school teaches you, is how to critically think about problems, and you're always going to get different opinions. So I do have people I can bounce things off of, but I am responsible for these 2 business units. So I don't have, I mean, I have a paralegal who is someone who kind of helps me with documents and kind of keeps me, make sure I'm, with my deadlines, or make sure that I'm on schedule. But I don't have another attorney that works under me. Our company runs a very lean ship. Most companies do, because we do have to hire outside counsel from time to time. So sometimes if we get sued, or if we decide to sue someone, we hire a law firm, which is what I used to do. I used to represent companies like I work for now in litigation matters in court. And
And
so,
so what prompted you to move from a law firm into like working for a corporate?
um, two major things. First and foremost, if when you're working in a law firm, you really need to start being able to get your own clients, which requires a lot of marketing and
A
and that's
sales, so
just
there's
not,
an
I'm not a
element of sales.
salesperson. Like, I am not, I definitely am not good at selling myself. And I'm much more just, give me my project and I want to do a really good job. But going out to cocktail parties and golf tournaments and joining, the junior league, nothing wrong with those things, just not who I am. It's just
Mhm.
not my natural inclination. I'm more of an introvert, frankly. And so you got to get your own business, and that's a stressful thing. And then it's just the work-life balance. That was probably the next major issue. I mean, I took a pay cut when I left the law firm, and a lot of people, I was about to make partner. I was like 6 months from making partner, and I was taking a pay cut, and people were like, why in the world? I had not taken a vacation in 7 years
Oh my God.
when I was at the law firm. So I really wanted, when you're a litigator, your life is dictated by the court's calendar. So, you don't, if a judge says we're scheduling trial for July 7th through the 15th, you can't say, oh, wait, I have family vacation scheduled, because they don't care. So I really wanted more of a work-life balance. And when you're a litigator, there's just not a lot of that. So that was the biggest thing. And then there were 3 things. And then when you're in a law firm, you also basically have to record your time. So when you do work for a client, in order to bill them for the work that you bill them in point 0.6 increments of an hour. So in order to do that, you have to keep track of everything you do all day long. And I hated that. I just didn't
Mhm.
like that. So those were probably the three main things. Um, and definitely I've resolved two of those things. The work-life balance I have not gotten. I've definitely taken more vacations. So that's important.
Mhm.
But it's still, I mean, I still basically am on call all the time. You know, my boss called me on Thanksgiving this year. He called me on Christmas Eve this year, because things come up. And so you just kind of have to deal with them. And so, but it is, I have a little more control over my own life,
Mhm.
because again, when you're a litigator, you're really basically, the court dictates your calendar.
Mhm.
So
So why
that
don't you
was.
tell me a little bit about you would what you did to kind of get yourself into this position where you're at now? What were some of the things you would recommend somebody else doing?
Well, first and foremost, I would recommend anyone who thinks they might want to go to law school. I would recommend a couple of things. I would recommend first that you go and sit through some classes. Law professors have absolutely no issue with, people coming and sitting in. You just call up the law school and, ask for their admissions department and say, "Hey, I might want to go to law school. Can I come observe some classes?" Just so you can see what it's going to be like. It's
Mhm.
very different than classes in high school or even classes in college. It's just a different way of learning. It's called the Socratic method. So you're given assignments, you go in, and the teacher doesn't stand up there and just talk the whole time. It's very interactive and they call on you. So I'd
Mhm.
recommend that first and foremost. And then secondly, I would recommend talking to one of the counselors at the law school. I mean, I think a lot of people utilize the law school admissions counselors or even career counselors after they're in law school, but they're also there for before you become, because they can tell you, these are the kinds of jobs that you can maybe find yourself doing. Is being a lawyer is more than just, you can do all kinds of different things with a law degree. It's not just being in court like you see on TV. It's not just being a lawyer at a big company like I'm doing right now. You can use your law degree in many ways. And there are a lot of people I went to law school with who don't practice law at all. They got their law degree, but they work in the business field, whether they're CEOs or whether they run the human resources department of a company. But they learned some good critical thinking skills over the 3 years in law school. So there's lots of ways to use your. So I'd meet with the counselors at the law school, and then, if you know anyone in your life who's a lawyer, ask them questions. Ask them what they like about it, what they don't like about it. Ask if you can go and spend a day with them, and
Mhm.
see what they do.
Mhm.
um, that's not going to tell you exactly, it's not going to give you all the answers, but at least gives you an idea of what it's like. One of the things I didn't think about, was, I didn't realize, and I don't know why I didn't realize, I was going to have to wear a suit every day if I was working in a law firm, because you can
Yeah.
get called into court at any time.
Yeah.
So you can't be sitting in your office in a pair of jeans, which, I
Yeah.
mean, I never thought I could wear jeans, let me be clear, but I didn't know I was going to have to be so formal.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me because that's not who I am. And
Yeah.
so basically, I kept a suit in my office at all times. So in case I had to change into it, I mean, I
That's
hated that.
awesome.
And that's one of the things I do not miss, because while I still have to look professional at my
Yeah.
job now, I don't have to wear a suit jacket and I don't have to be that formal. So
Mhm.
that's the kind of stuff that I didn't even think about,
Yeah.
and I remember telling my mom that, like, the first week I was practicing, she's like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "I hate wearing this suit." And she said, "Well, you probably should have thought about that before."
Yeah.
And it's just not something you think about. And it sounds silly, but really and
Yeah.
truly, it's just not who I am. I'm more of a flip flops. And,
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't wear flip flops to work now,
Yeah.
but I sure as heck don't wear suits either. So those are the kinds of things that it kind of helps you see what it's really like.
Right. And I like too that you've also been able to show how you were able to kind of pivot and make some adjustments to make it more palatable for you, to make it more
Yep.
enjoyable for you. I don't believe there's any career that's just, a 100% perfect situation. So it's about knowing ourself
Mm-hmm.
and being able to kind of accommodate our needs and our values and
Yep.
match that with, you know, a company and a profession and a field that meets your needs and
Yep.
what you want.
Absolutely.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the challenges of being an attorney? You kind of touched on work-life balance. What
Yes.
other challenges have you
Um,
faced or that other people might see?
yeah. So, one of the challenges that you face is um, you're not always everyone's favorite person. So, a lot of times, as the lawyer, whether you're in a law firm and you're in court, obviously that's more of a there's more, I don't want to say animosity, but that's more, you're kind of against another party, obviously. But even in my job now, people don't always want to come talk to legal because we can't always say yes. So when they come to me with an issue, sometimes I always try and get to yes, but it may not be the way they wanted to get there. So it may be harder for them to get to what they wanted to do, but the way that I'm telling them to do it is the appropriate, compliant, legal way to do it. So you're not always everyone's favorite person. That's the first thing. And you have to be okay with that. And I am. I mean, it's, you know, um, in the end, I think people do realize that they realize we bring value, we keep them out of trouble. But so sometimes you have to be the one who says no to things, and
Right.
you have to be willing to be able to do that. Um, and you have to, I think you also have to be ready to not, because you're not going to, you're not going to be popular. People will try and get you to do things that you really shouldn't do. Um, and your integrity and your reputation are all you have as a lawyer. And as a human being and an individual, integrity is important to me,
Right.
obviously. But then in my career, the second you lose that as a lawyer, you cannot get it back. So you just you don't cut corners, and you don't twist things. Look, that one of the things you learn as a lawyer is how, to maybe there are ways around things. There might be loopholes that are legal but maybe not ethical.
Mhm.
And I made a decision early on in my career. I was never, ever going to cross that line, because the second you cross it, it becomes easier to cross it more often. And I think that's the same in life in general, but in
Mhm.
my career, the same way. And that's not always been easy. It's
Yeah, well,
sometimes it's
I
hard.
think isn't it there an adage that sort of lawyers are sort of known to kind of
Yeah. Yeah, and you get that reputation. I mean, when I was in private practice as a litigator, there were certain lawyers that was like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with that person because I can't trust them. I mean, you
Mhm.
want to be able to trust the person on the other side of the table, even if
Mhm.
you guys have completely different opinions and you're going against one another. If you have a mutual respect and trust for them, it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience. If you can't trust them and you've learned either through experience or from word of mouth, it just makes the whole process so much more painful. It makes it more expensive for your client, because of the games that are played. And it really is what gives our profession its bad name.
Mhm.
And, we're really here to help people, whether it's individuals or companies. And games can be played and rules can be twisted, but that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to get the facts out there and, have, and then apply the law to those facts. And unfortunately, there are people who take it up, like everything in life. There are people who take advantages of loopholes
Mhm.
and maybe do things that are not ethical, and it just makes the whole thing harder.
Right.
So,
Well, and I guess the flip side of that is having more ethical people pursuing law is a good thing.
yep,
We need good people with moral standards that in that profession, you know. So we can't think of all of them as, you know, dirty lawyers or else,
yeah,
you know, we're not going to have good people in there. So we
right.
appreciate people that are willing to do that. So do you see any changes coming in your industry, like as far as the future?
Um, I don't, because I've because this has come up a lot. People talk about, oh, in the future we won't need this because we'll be able to automate that. You can't automate people's ability to critically think. That just, I mean, can I see, like, maybe there are ways to streamline, gathering evidence, so maybe we won't need as many paralegals, or, but you're never going to replace the judicial system. You're
Mm,
never going to replace humans who critically think about facts. So
right,
there might be faster ways to do things. There may be, back when I started practicing 20 years ago, we were still filing paper documents.
right,
And obviously, over the past 20 years, it's gone to all e filing. And so there's definitely been parts of our industry who are no longer around. There used to be companies that all they did was make copies and produce, you know, uh, evidence and, all the paper stuff. They're gone now. And so
right.
maybe that's been a change. But as far as lawyers go, you're always going to need somebody who is in the room who's thinking about those issues,
Mhm.
whether it's in a corporation like I'm in today, or you're always going to need someone who's, a completely unbiased party to represent you in a lawsuit. That's not going to change. I don't see our legal system changing. There are areas of it that should change, but they're never going to change, in my opinion. Um,
So good
and
job
so,
security.
huh?
Good job security.
Yeah, yeah, there is definitely job security. So,
And I also like that you were mentioning how many other things there are possible too. So even if there are changes to a particular type of attorney, or maybe they restructure things, there's just
mhm.
so many different avenues that you can use your law degree to pursue.
Well, and what's interesting is, so when I took this job that I have now, I work in the medical device industry now, and I had done one case for a company where I represented them in a products liability suit in the pharmaceutical industry, but it's not the same as medical device. And so when I was applying for this job and trying to explain why I felt like I was the best candidate, most people would say, but you don't have specific medical device. Well, you don't necessarily have to. I have organizational skills. I've managed 20 to 30 cases at a time. One of the beautiful things about being in a law firm and being a litigator is you get all kinds of different issues. Like one day you'll be in a contract dispute, the next day you're talking about a property line dispute or products liability, and you kind of have to become a mini expert. You have to educate yourself. And so the ability to pivot from one type of lawsuit in the morning to another type of lawsuit in the afternoon shows your ability to learn and be willing to learn. And so when I took on this role, I had to do a lot of learning on my own. And so the ability to critically think, to be organized, to be detailed, to be um, the attention to detail are all skills you learn in law school, and they're skills that can be used in any job.
Mhm.
Well, except like a surgeon. I
Yeah.
couldn't be a doctor, obviously. But I mean, there's skills that you can use in all kinds of jobs,
Right.
nonprofit, for profit, government, not government. I mean, so there's lots of things you can do with the skills you learn in law school.
Right. And it's those transferable skills that you can, like you
Yeah.
were talking about, that you were able to emphasize to get a new position,
Yep.
that even if you don't meet the exact criteria, you can still sell your skills
Yep.
that are transferable. So you have
Yeah.
to just be able to,
And
um,
then once you get there, you got to put in the work. So I had
right?
to put in the extra work, outside of my daily job to learn this industry. Because there's a whole bunch of laws that, that I never studied in law school. Again, law school really teaches you more how to think, teaches you the very basics about laws in different areas. But I can tell you, there's, at least in my law school, there's not a class about medical device law. So
Right.
I kind of had to do that on my own. And
Right.
so once you get there, and you're always learning. I mean, besides the fact that you have to get credits you have to get continuing education credits every year to maintain your membership in the bar. Um, you're always reading articles about your industry and what's going on, because that's how you best give the best advice to your client, whether you're in litigation or I call them my clients in corporate practice. So
Right. Right. And so the idea that education continues on, if you're picking a topic or a field that's interesting to you, that should be exciting to you.
yep. Hmm.
That should be something that you don't dread
Yep,
that
absolutely.
you're excited about that.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think like environmental law sounds boring to me. Tax law
Mhm.
sounds boring to me, but I always actually wanted to be a doctor, but I cannot handle blood. I
Mm,
pass out
mhm.
actually and have done so many times in hospitals when I've been there visiting other people. And so this is kind of the next best thing for me. You know, I work in the medical field. I'm not a
Right.
doctor, definitely, but what I do helps people. What the products that we make help people. And it's in an area that I find fascinating, which is medicine. And so, um, absolutely, you've got, you definitely want to have a desire to, you have to like what you're doing.
Mhm.
Um, and again, it's not that I didn't like what I was doing before this job. It just wasn't like I didn't really have a desire to go and, read up on better hearsay, how you handle hearsay better in court. It was boring to me. I didn't
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
I liked the writing part of it. There was a lot of writing when I was in private practice, and I didn't mind that because it was a lot of persuasive writing, which I enjoyed. But this is different for me. Like I find myself, constantly interested in what's changing and what's happening in our industry. So
Awesome. So, and I love how you kind of touched on marrying some different interests and coming at it from different angles. So, sometimes we think we need to know all the answers at the beginning, and we just sort of
mhm.
have to follow that initial and
Yep.
just keep going. And it's going to take time maybe to kind of weed it out. But knowing and understanding yourself and being able
Hmm.
to kind of look for opportunities to bring in other interests as your career evolves, that
Yeah.
kind of
Well, and you touched on one thing I wanted to make sure I focused on, which is you cannot be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as stupid questions. So again, coming into this industry, I remember going to my very first meeting with the executive staff of the company that I'm with, and I didn't understand most of what they were talking about. And you have to be willing to be vulnerable and ask questions. You don't have to know everything. I think people think, oh, lawyers just, no, we don't know everything. We know how to say, you know what, I'm not totally sure about that. Let me get back to you. And then
right,
we go find the answer.
right.
You don't have to have all the answers. So I
Yeah.
think it can be intimidating, but there's always resources. There's either people,
Mhm.
which I find to be the best resource, going and asking people, and you have to be humble and willing to go ask and tell them, look, I don't know what you're talking about. So can you explain this to me? Or there's things you can read, but
Right.
either way, you don't need to know everything ever. I mean, I'm 21 years into this career and I still have days when I'm just like, I don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And literally sometimes, I kid you not, sometimes my research starts out on Google.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. And
Yeah.
it leads me to other more reputable search,
Right.
and research engines. But sometimes it's as simple as what does this mean?
Yeah.
And then I go from there. But
Right. Which is also part of the excitement probably
uh-huh.
too, is that
Yeah.
it's not boring and it's not, which also is what makes it, using that critical thinking. It's not stuff that's just repetitive. I mean,
Yeah.
it can't be streamlined that much because it's always novel.
Yep.
So,
Totally. Yeah.
you kind of touched on some of the things that are important skills to have, being detail oriented, being willing to learn on your own.
Mhm.
Um, what any other things come to mind?
Um, a lot of reading and writing.
Mhm.
So, and I'm a slow reader, always have been. Like it take my law school roommate, she would finish our reading assignments like way before I would. And it's just because it just takes me longer. It always has, whether I'm reading for fun or reading for school, it's always taken me twice as long as everyone else. I kept a dictionary next to me, a legal dictionary to look up words I didn't understand. So there's a lot of reading and a lot of writing. It gets better over time as you start to understand the vocabulary and the way things are put. It gets faster. I mean, I can look at a 20-page contract now and pretty much figure out what the major issues are in a few minutes, but that used to take me a very long time.
Mhm.
So you have to be patient with yourself.
Mhm.
Some people have no issue with that. They're fast readers, they're fast this, fast that. But I guess my point there is you don't have to be fast reader. You don't have to, you can take it at your own pace. So reading, writing, the humility, being willing to ask questions, being willing to say, I don't know the answer to that. I had to say that to a federal judge once when he asked me a question in open court. You know what, Your Honor, I don't know the answer to that question, because you don't lie to a federal judge. I mean,
Right.
so you don't lie
Right.
to anyone, but you sure as heck don't. There's no way to fake it in front of a federal judge. So you have to be humble and willing to say, I don't know.
Right.
Just a lot of hard work, you know. I mean, people are counting on you to give them the best advice you can, and it's never going to be perfect. But you know, you got to be willing to work hard. That's the other thing. I mean, I work a lot, but I like what I do.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think those are probably the main ones.
Awesome. So just last question, what do you wish you had known about your field before you began? Just kind of your last piece of
Yeah.
wisdom or advice for someone.
I wish I I learned over time all the different things I could do with my law degree. And I kind of wish I had known. I don't know that I would have gone straight into being at a law firm. That's the easy answer with your law degree. The easy answer is, oh, I'm going to go work at a law firm.
Mhm.
And I just did not enjoy my time there. I learned a lot, but it was not, I didn't enjoy it. So I was kind of miserable for like 9 years.
So just kind of be more aware of
Be more open to what
open.
other things you can do, and aware, and ask more questions. Like, talk to the counselors at the, I had never used the career counselors at the law school. I didn't. I just thought, oh, I'm going to go work at a law firm because that's what everybody was doing.
Right.
And I really wish I had utilized them, and they could have given me, and look, I mean, who knows how it would have changed things, but I wish I had known that. I wish I had done a little more research beforehand. It would not have changed my decision to go to law school. It probably would have changed my decision where I started out, but I still learned a lot, and that's helped me where I'm at now. So I can't really complain about it. But that, and yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, because really, I think I knew, well, not I think, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I mean, I loved law school. There are some people who hated it. I loved it. I was sad the day I graduated. I love learning. I loved being in school. So I was sad that I had to learn or actually leave and go be an adult. And
Right. I think we're all a little bit sad about that when that happened.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I would probably have done a little more utilizing the resources that were there at the law school for me to help determine what I really wanted to do.
Yeah. And now there's so many more resources too.
You can get on the internet. I mean, again, I'm old. So, I mean, we were just getting email when I was starting. Okay. So
right.
This whole idea of searching on the internet, that Google didn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
That's how, so there's a lot more. There are a lot more things. But it's definitely not what you see on TV. It's not that exciting. I'm sorry to break that to people.
Yeah.
It's really not. Yeah, it's not that exciting. So
well, I really appreciate your time and your being willing to share. I know this will be helpful.
Sure.
I've had many students asking me, about or thinking about this possibility. So it's helpful.
Well, and I'm happy to talk to anyone if people want to reach out and have any questions. And
awesome.
You'd be surprised how many people around you are lawyers or no lawyers. And most lawyers I know are willing to talk to anybody who has questions or give them advice. So
yeah. And I think that's an important thing to point out, that to take advantage of those offers, because it really can make a huge impact. Plus, you never know, how that could lead to a future job opportunity or something you never thought of before. And so it's good to explore those options. So
absolutely.
Well, thanks, Jen.
You're welcome. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, you too.
This episode of Career Convos is brought to you by Aligned Ambition. If you're looking for help while preparing to enter the workforce, need tools to build your resume, or are looking for guidance in finding a career path that is a great fit for you and your personal strengths, click on the link in the show notes to learn more about what Aligned Ambition has to offer.